back again. Another late night in the shop, and today I wanted to talk about what I would call the coming thotpocalyps, and just the decline of modern women and how that's gonna pan out 10, 15 years into the future. So buckle up, it's gonna be fun. First I gotta get this big old slab, big old tabletop on here, and then we'll start chatting. So yeah, the coming thotpocalyps. And leave your comments below, but the way that I see it, I think there's more prostitution going on today than there ever has been in history. And that's kind of a bold statement, and there's no real facts to back that up. I'm sure there's some statistics out there, but I think it's true, because if you look back in history, before, prostitution always had to be done out in the open, right? You couldn't just, from the comfort of your own home with an anonymous name, do that sort of work. And the internet and social media has made it to where you can essentially do that anywhere and do it anonymously. And I think this has created this, number one, simp economy, which is obviously driving all this, because somebody's gotta pay for this stuff, right? And it's given a lot of these women basically access to free money. Of course, they have to, degrade themselves and go on the internet and do these things. But if you think about it, the incentive for them to do that is just so great. You have, these people on OnlyFools willingly giving these people money, right? And I think it's just unprecedented as to the amount of women that are making money off of essentially lonely men, And so obviously the message to men is, if you're part of the simp economy, stop. Stop giving these women attention, money, anything. And I think it's the reason I brought this up is because I don't even have a personal Instagram account anymore. I think that whole app is just, it's impossible to use without it messing you up, unless you're using it for, only professional uses, but it's impossible to go on there without getting screwed up. But anyway, I still have one for my business account, which I honestly don't even go on enough to justify even having it. And anyway, somehow it convinced me to make a Threads account, and I'm sure you guys have heard of the new app Threads. I think it's essentially like Twitter, and all of a sudden, mind you, I'm not even following anybody, but I start getting all these accounts that are, basically just women promoting their OnlyFools pages. And it's just, it's endless. And I clicked on one just out of pure curiosity to see how they lure these people in. And it's the same tactics. You can see the same tactics across all these accounts. And sure enough, there's guys in the comments being idiots, giving these women attention. And I just found the whole scene just so dystopian. You know, we have this probably like the loneliest generation ever. Marriage rates are at an all-time low. People aren't having kids, they're not having families, and there's all these people sitting online. Part of the people are monetizing the other's loneliness, and we have these guys willingly giving their money to, you know, like, I'm gonna be frank, these are prostitutes. Just because they might not be doing the act, it's only pictures. Don't have any illusions that these are not prostitutes. These are exactly prostitutes. And just the sheer amount of people that are involved in this is pretty mind-blowing, pretty staggering. So what happens when that economy dries up? What happens when, you know, someone that's worked in that field for
So I actually recorded the second half of this video, but it either didn't record or I deleted it like an idiot. Something happened. Anyway, this last part of the video is going to be without any video. It's only going to be audio, but I wanted to conclude the thought. No pun intended, right? So the thought apocalypse. And as I was thinking about this question, I think it's going to be a simp and thought apocalypse. Simpocalypse, we could call it, right? Because for every thought you think there has to be at least a 1 to 10 ratio of simps, right? For these women to make money, there has to be at least, I would say, if not 10, probably 200 to 400 willing men that pay these thoughts their salary, right? So what we have is we have a larger percentage ever of women that are willing to sell themselves, sell their bodies or their image online for money. And then we have these men, and I think this part it's controversial, and I don't think it's right. I think it's like, for all the men out there, the message of this video is stop paying these people. Stop paying these women. Stop giving them attention. Do not give them money, right? Like, that's how we end it. We need to bankrupt OnlyFans. If I had one message in this video, is we need to bankrupt OnlyFans. Stop giving these women money and your attention. Seriously. Come on. But probably the people that are going to be watching this video already are not going to be doing that. So anyway, so we have this percentage, a larger percentage than ever, of women who are selling their bodies, selling their images online, and they're used to this income and influx of attention. So what happens when that dries out? Well, that's the big question, right? Like, where do they go? You know, some people say they become, hostesses or bartenders again, maybe real estate agents if they have the mental capacity for it. But like, what happens to that section, that population that engages in that activity, right? And I think that's what we're going to see in the upcoming 10, 20, 30 years. And I know that's a long time ahead, and everybody's thinking, oh, that's just, that's too long. But it's like, what happens to society when you have a whole generation of men, say it's even 20-30%. It's still the minority, right? But 20-30% of men who are single, who have no wife, no kids, nothing to live for, and then you have, let's say, 25%, 30% of women who have the same thing. Like, what does that society look like? And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is what does the end game of this look like? I mean, if we're looking at it from the standpoint of demographics, it's going to be a huge population decrease, right? We're going to have the healthiest people, because the people that chose families, that chose wives and husbands and communities that were solid and intact, they're going to be the ones that are reproducing, and the sick people will breed themselves out of existence. From a Christian perspective, the toll of sin is death, right? And so if you lead an ultimately sinful life, you cannot, as a matter of fact, reproduce. And so death is the only path, right? I think this simpocalyps, this thotpocalyps, I think this is going to be a psychological death of a society on a massive scale. And for some people, maybe they won't experience it, but I think there's going to be a huge percentage of people that did not take into account the whole rest of their 2/3 of their life, right? They only thought of themselves, they only imagined themselves in the first 20 to 30 years old. And then 30 to 40 is kind of this gray area. And then post 40 is this, what do you do with the next 40 years of your life if you spent it doing OnlyFans? What do you do? And that's the question. So for the guys, again, get the hell off the apps, get off of the sites. Stop.